What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, the founder of Cannabud Marketing, the #1 marketing agency for dispensaries all over both Canada and United States. And I'm here joined with the founder of Bakery Cannabis, Reeves. And he is not only the founder, he is the manager, he's the owner, he wears all the different hats. And he's here to give us some really, really awesome insights on how you can better, manage your dispensary, do better marketing, and all that fun stuff. So without further ado, here we go. Welcome Reeves to the chat.
Pleasure.
Awesome. So really, really happy to have you on the call. So I guess just to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I pretty much just graduated university. My graduation is in June 8th, but I'm turning 24 this year. I'm originally from Hong Kong. Now I'm living in Toronto. I started this company with my longtime high school friend Daniel back in 2020 October, I would say. That's when we sort of got our own retail spot, and then going forward with the application. Me and Daniel always had envisioned ourselves like doing business together ever since high school because we saw the characteristics in each other, but just wasn't the right time yet, given that we were too young, too inexperienced, too naive. And because of the COVID and stuff, like we made some money here and there from the stock market. We took advantage of it. But obviously we also have a little bit of support from a family. And then that's how we made this possible. And now we have a store running for 7 months now. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on, almost graduating. That's really, really cool. So what kind of made you want to go into like the cannabis industry specifically, or I guess even more specifically, opening up like a dispensary?
What kind of, sorry?
Like what was the reason for you wanting to join the cannabis industry?
I wanted to be part of something that has not been established yet, essentially, because I find that a lot of industry has already been done many times. There's a lot of existing blueprints out there and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm a kind of guy that likes uncertainties, to a certain degree, obviously.
Right.
But I just wanted to do something that has, that hasn't been done before, like worldwide, which, I would say Canada is sort of like the only country that's sort of like legally like everywhere. And the second thing is really just my enthusiasm towards cannabis.
Right.
Me and Daniel would go to dispensaries all the time, and we would find these problems. And we think that we have the solution. We can offer the solution, and therefore we were sort of incentivized and motivated to go forward with it.
Right.
Yeah.
What were some of the problems that you saw that other dispensaries were doing?
I would say the first thing that I see in a lot of stores is that a lot of times people get misguided. As an example, I remember, I'm not going to say the name of the store, but I remember I went to one store where I was looking for a specific product. I think it was a vape cartridge. And I asked the bartender, do you have this product here? They're like, I don't think so. And they just walked away. And I used the iPad. It took me like 20 seconds to find it. So I just find that a lot of customers are sort of getting mistreated in a way. And also, since Daniel is really good at growing in genetics, and I'm pretty much interested in smoking everything. We find that it might be the best to sort of use ourselves as a reference to sort of describe the weed instead of going off a piece of paper, right? Because it could always end up different. I find that at the very least, like if I use my own experience to customers, like perhaps there would be more credibility there, and a little bit more personal with the customers,
right?
Stuff like that. Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of the things you're talking about is on that having a good customer buying experience or having a good, customer experience as a whole, right?
Yeah, that's sort of one of the ultra focus of our business model. I would say the other thing is that we wanted to have like a selection of products where it's sort of hand curated. That's sort of like a fancy way to put it, but it's more so just like a lot we know about our products. I would say that in our store currently, like 80 to 85% of product in the store I've tried. Doesn't matter if it's flower, pre-rolls, concentrates, drinks. I've pretty much tried like most of it, which is probably one of the reasons why I have good feedback from customers saying that my description of the weed is accurate, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So you're giving, like you said, instead of like whatever LPs are saying the description of the product, you're actually giving your own personal experience on what you actually think is going on. And then you can properly relay that to the customers from a more personal basis. Not like, hey, this feels like this, but no, like when I took this, I actually felt like this from a personal perspective. Is that about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. So how it works in our team is essentially, Daniel is not as high in tolerance, so he's gonna be testing the lighter weed.
Right.
I'm sort of the reference for the customer who comes in and asks for heavy indica, where they're like, oh, I need the strongest hit. And I would say I have a pretty high tolerance myself, which is a good reference point to the heavy indica customers. So I know what's strong enough and stuff like that. Obviously, if they are like, years of smokers, then I can't really give them an insight, but for the most part, I could. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And like, it's just like as if, and I make tons of analogies to the restaurant business, right? But it's just like, you're the chef that's cooking your food, that's creating the product, or at least, selling the product. They're tasting it at every single step of the way, right?
Exactly.
Whereas I do believe that, like, the products that you're selling, if you're saying, hey, this does this, you should at least have some sort of information, even if it's not you personally testing and trying the products. You have someone in the store that can properly recommend whatever's going on, which makes tons of sense to me.
Yeah, I find that like I don't really like it when when I personally don't like it when I go to the store and asking for knowledge, and it doesn't matter what industry it is. I would expect a little bit of insights instead of just like, oh, it's a good product, or like it's an excellent product, or it's a nice brand. I would want a little bit of personal experience. There are some products in a store that I don't personally use, like, to be honest. But for those products, I try my best to get feedback from customers. How did you like this drink?
Nice.
That kind of stuff. And then, use those as reference points. If a next customer comes in, I could be like, hey, I never had this, or I'm not really a big CBD bud smoker, but I have a few customers who took this, and these are their feedback. And that should give them a little bit more confidence on the product because, at least I'm using a real life example here. Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's a really good nugget. And I know you said it in passing, but, on the topic of like, even, okay, let's just say, you don't want to, try your own products, or you think it's too much, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Getting feedback from customers on a daily basis or a weekly basis on products that if maybe you can't try it, or, like you said, if it's one of the heavy hitters and you have a lower tolerance, it might not be feasible for you to be trying all these different things. But by you getting feedback from your customers and saying, hey, customer A said this, and you can then relay that to customer B, I do think that's a very good way that people can come in and essentially provide additional value for, the customer buying experience is what I like to call it, right? And I think that's a really good job of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess on that topic, like, kind of segueing into some of your key differentiators. So I like what you're doing with the whole trying the product, tasting the product, and figuring out what it is and relaying that to other people. But do you have any other kind of key differentiators that you pride yourself on, as the Bakery Cannabis does this, or is it mostly geared towards that whole product curation portion?
I would say, other than service, quality service and stuff, knowledge is also a key. But other than surface knowledge, I would also say that we kind of try to at least try our best to go above and beyond. So we do have like pre-roll services. So how that works is that essentially, if a customer comes in and they bought, let's say, half quarter of Kush, and they were saying, "Hey, I don't want to roll these," or the reason why I'm not buying pre-rolls is because I want fresher buds, but I don't want to roll it. Then we would have a pre-roll station in a back room. Essentially, we will use cones to roll the joints for the customers for free, which is one of the things that we do that sort of differentiate ourselves. The second thing we do is essentially rosin pressing. So, and again, the reason why we do this is because there's not really that much concentrates available on the legal market right now. And I'm sure that will change over time, but like there are options, but for dabbers, sometimes they find they're lacking. Secondly, sometimes some people would want a specific strains rosin. As an example, I had a customer the other day, he really likes Triangle Kush from BC Black, but he wanted to dab it. So just, press it for him. And yeah, that's sort of the two things we're doing right now that, we try our best to go above and beyond and provide whatever the customer needs.
Yeah. Okay, I really like that. So walk me through that then. So the pre-rolls and I guess rosin press, I'm assuming they're similar in terms of offering. So is this something you use as a marketing tool to say, hey, if you want fresher bud, or if you want pre-rolls of a different strain, or concentrate of a different strain, we will kind of like press it for you, or we will go ahead and roll it for you. How does that work? It's like, do you have to buy a specific amount? Do they walk in the store the first time they purchase it, they get it for free? Like, walk me through that process.
For now, there isn't really that much like complicated mechanism like that. It's more so just if you bought, it doesn't matter if you bought 1 gram or 3.5 grams or 7 grams. We will just, and we have a little logo sign somewhere in our store that says free joint rolling service. And essentially, if they request for it, we'll ask, hey, this is 3.5 grams. How many joint would you want? If they say, hey, we want like big fat joints, then, we'll try to roll them like 3 king size and then 1.5 grams and be like, here you go. But if they're trying to look for like a smaller joint, we try to roll them in 6, 7 joints. In terms of like rosin pressing, like it wouldn't make sense if someone bought 1 gram or half quarter to press. So I think for now, like the minimum requirement is to buy 7 grams or above for us. But that could change essentially. We're still sort of trying to finalize everything, but for now, those are the mechanisms for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, I think there's also like a cost benefit, because because if somebody were to go in and let's just say they only buy cones, they have to buy, whatever pack of cones, then they have to go grind it up and do it themselves, right? Yeah. But you're alleviating some of that cost because the pre-rolls are obviously slightly more expensive than just buying the bud by itself, especially at the higher volumes, right? So I do think if you're not doing that already, I do think that it's an awesome thing that you're doing, but if your customers know that, it does add to that key differentiation portion, right? If you have the good customer stuff, all of that stuff, works.
Yeah. It also just sort of, makes the customer feel more like appreciative and stuff. You're not really just here to sell buds and try to dismiss them. You're really just trying to help them in the best way possible. Yeah. And I think that's super important because especially in Western countries, I find that customer service, you can't just be thinking, oh, people out there in the market are doing this. I'm gonna do a slightly better version of it. I don't think that's gonna differentiate yourself too much in the customer's perspective. I think that you have to do something that's above and beyond that may perhaps not a lot of people are doing. Perhaps it's something innovative in order for you to stand out. So we find that that's sort of like also correlates and integrate with like quality service, because essentially we're doing quality service, we're going above and beyond, and we're sort of providing, value as well. And just like you mentioned, pre-rolls are a little bit more expensive. We sort of like save them a couple bucks here and there, and help them roll the joint, stuff like that. So it's sort of like I would say it's a double win. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm on that. I think you're at least the person that I spoke, because I know some businesses do like the rosin press. I wasn't sure about the pre-roll services, and I think that's a really cool way that you can get people through the door. Because I do know a few people that are like, hey, I'm going to buy the bud because it's a little bit cheaper, but then like I'm not really interested in doing the pre-roll stuff. Like there's so many ways you can kind of go about doing it, but I do think that this is a really, really good value add that I think makes a lot of sense, and it's not super hard to implement, right? Just something easy to do.
Yeah, the only thing is that some customers would think that we're liking the paper.
Yeah, especially with COVID, right?
Yeah, but then I'm just like, hey, no worries. Like we wear gloves, we use cones. We don't really have a mouth on the paper. Like,
yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So now the next thing, talk about your marketing mix. So how are you getting people to come into your store? Like what is that mix of the things that you're doing?
I would say a combination of a lot of things, which I'm not sure can I really list them all, but I would try to say, things that sort of I would prioritize on. So the first thing is that I would say, do you mean like marketing as in like when a person comes in the store, how we sell stuff, or?
Well, let's segment this into two ways then. How do you, one, get people to come into your store, right? And then how do you, two, I guess, generate the most amount of sales in terms of how you're interacting with your customers once they get it? And we can split it up that way. So what is your marketing mix on how do you get people to physically come into your store or order online for any of your products?
Yeah, so we have a sandwich board on a store, outside of a store, that would do like a sort of like weed jokes of the week on a blackboard. And we sort of have this like, very cringy weed jokes. They're cringe, but hey, they work. They get people to laugh because they're cringe, right?
They're funny.
And some people would come in and be like, hey, the joke outside is fun and stuff. And that's sort of like breaking the ice, right? Because they come in and talk. And then, you obviously got to keep a good face, good attitude towards them. And then we'll be like, hey, like, thanks for checking us out. What kind of sparked your interest in coming in and stuff? And we sort of just go along with the conversation. And the name, the Bakery Cannabis, sort of has served as good and bad, I would say. Like, so because of the name, a lot of people sort of have a presumption that we have a lot of edible selection. But also because of the name, people think that we're an actual baked goods store where they come in and be like, oh, I thought this is a bakery. Or we even have, as far as some lady come in and asking us to make them a cannabis birthday cake. Like, we don't do that, sorry.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we wish, but yeah. And so the second question, to answer your second question, like how do we market stuff? And so essentially in our store, we try to distinguish things to make it very simple to understand. We think that the customer should never have to ask, what's this or where's this? It should be very like crystal clear. Right. So we have 3 display cases on the right side of the store, essentially, indica, and then hybrid in the middle, sativa. So the more left leaning you go towards it's going to be more indica. The more right leaning you go to, it's going to be more sativa. That's sort of like the mechanism. And when a customer is sort of like asking us for a specific product, like let's just say a very common question, hey, what's the highest THC percentage but for the lowest price? You don't always have to go to the cheapest flower because that's sort of, I find that that's sort of the rookie mistake I made in the first place. I just thought that, hey, this customer asked for cheapest flower, I must give him the cheapest option.
Right.
Sometimes like you can sort of do a little bit of introduction to customers, like, have you had this flower yet? It's maybe a little bit more expensive than the most cheapest one, but it's definitely worth it. And I sort of just go off with my own feedback and stuff.
Right.
Sometimes I would have pictures in my phone with the buds, videos and stuff, just because, the package is sealed. They can't really see much. So I try my best. Essentially, I try my best to break that barrier of like lack of transparency.
Right.
Because I find that there's a lack of transparency between the product and the customer. Like they buy a jar, they don't know what the bud looks like, they don't know what it smells like, they don't know anything. So it's not that I can actually take out a bud and be like, hey, smell these. But the best I can do is at least show them pictures. Perhaps sometimes I even have like a funny video to show them like when I'm smoking it. Yeah. And just try to keep it entertaining, try to keep it like mood lifting. Like don't try not to make it dull and just say like it's a good product. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you're crushing the customer service game. Because these are all like really, really good things. Like even like you said, having pictures on your phone, like it's just a super small thing, but when you have a package that's just literally all branding and you can't really see the actual product itself, by you having the pictures, I think it'd be really good. Maybe you have the top 5 most popular products that people come in all the time and ask and say you have pictures, right? But not only that, like you're, and I think this comes with experience, of course, you are now guiding customers through the buying process versus just immediately giving them what they think they want. Right? It's like high THC, low cost. Great. But what does low cost mean to them? Right? What is the value exchange in terms of the products that you can offer? Because a lot of times I'm finding, when people do selling, it's like, hey, how do we just price this product super, super low so that people will come in and buy it so it's super cheap? Right? But what a lot of people miss out on is like, you're missing out on a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of margin, but you're missing out on a couple dollars here and there because instead of guiding the customer through the process, you're just saying, hey, boom, pick that cheap bud. But if you're now going in and walking them saying, hey, I know you wanted this is only $3 more expensive, but I do think that the experience that you're going to get when smoking this or consuming this is going to be a lot higher. Why don't you give this a shot? Right.
Yeah.
And I think you're crushing it that way.
Yeah. Sort of just open up people's mind a little bit. If at the end of the day, if they're like, no, I just want the cheapest, then we will just, okay, like we can do it. But I think that you shouldn't like submit to the customer right away. You sort of, it's have to be more confident with your own stuff. That's why like I find that like if you're working in the store, you have to know what the hell you're talking about. Like you can't just, go on papers, on theory. It cannot be based on theoretical perspective. I believe it has to be based on real life experiences. So, my confidence of product knowledge is really gained from just trying different stuff out like all the time. And I find that's pretty important because like weed is not like food where everyone would just think it's good just because it tastes good. Like we sort of react to weed differently, like because of different genetics, yada yada. But there's also different things in weed too, right? Like THC percentage is only 1 out of 100 cannabinoids, and there's also like terpenes, very popular right now, obviously. There's also like how's the weed harvest, like how long have they been cured? That all determines the harshness of the smoke, the smoothness of the smoke, and even the high. Like I would say that terpenes sort of, I don't really have evidence to prove that terpenes makes your high higher, but I would say that from my personal experience, different terpenes sort of distinguish different kind of high. So I think that it's very important to also have a little bit of terpenes knowledge as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're these kind of small things, from my side, like obviously I'm on the marketing side of things, right? But I really do think that having a deep, in-depth knowledge about whatever product that you're selling, not even just in the cannabis space, but like in whatever other space you're in,
Yeah.
Super important. And, again, cannabis, a lot of people's like, I just want to get high for not a lot of money. And that's pretty much it. But when somebody like you comes in that has a knowledge on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right, I think it really helps on the loyalty side for, to get people coming back over and over again. 100%.
Yeah. And what if your accuracy is sort of like very accurate, like I'm sorry, like if your description of the weed is very accurate,
right.
And also sometimes you have to be more honest. Sometimes like you can't just say everything is good if you know something is not good.
Right.
Like if the customer is asking like, wow, like this is a very cheap price for 27% THC, how's it smoke? You could say it's amazing, like best cheap flower in the market, that stuff. But then when they smoke it, if they're disappointed, then you lose credibility there. Yeah. So what I would do is usually, hey, it is 27%. I personally tried it. It gets the job done. It got me pretty high, but the price is reflective. Like it is a little bit harsher. Perhaps the flavor is not my preference flavor. It's not something I like, but it gets the job done. And if that's all you care about, I would say go for it. But if you want a little bit smoother smoke or a little bit more, not as harsh and, nicer looking buds, then, for a couple more dollars, there's these options.
Yeah.
That kind of like strategy. I find that works best for me right now.
Yeah. And it's coming from a place of value too, right? You're not like just trying to upsell them into something that costs a little bit more. You're telling them the honest truth, right? You spend a little bit, your overall experience is going to be a lot better, right? Which, I think, like you said, it's a win-win for everyone. You get a little bit more money, they get a much better experience compared to the amount that they would have paid before. And, everything is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I like the sign side, the jokes, the sign that you have outside and stuff like that. So is there anything, I guess, either more so on the online space that you're doing to try and, I guess, generate more awareness for your brand or at least get some additional traffic to your website or anything like that?
Right now we are trying to get more people to go on our website and stuff to check us out and stuff. So we did try to like expand our variety on like sales, like item that's on sale. We did recreate the looks of a website on March, which now looks much better. It's not, it's not where I want to be at, but sort of, at least a big step forward. We did a bunch of like SEO stuff, and we also recently has been trying to increase the domain authority, citations, all that kind of stuff to sort of, climb on rankings and stuff. But on the website, I would say that that's probably, I gotta be honest, that's probably one area that I find we're lacking, because conversion rate sometimes could be very up and down. So I don't really want to lie and say like, hey, like I got an amazing website, and this is probably where we are not struggling, but still, trying to climb.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, obviously the website, the conversion stuff, the SEO is definitely something you want to touch on. Yeah. And, unbiased opinion aside, I definitely do think like SEO is like the biggest unlock for any cannabis dispensary, just because of, just how powerful it is.
Yeah.
But, I would love to hear your reasons why you think SEO is like one of the best ways to advertise for your dispensary.
Well, firstly, I would say that since ads is not really available for like cannabis in many ways. Secondly, I find that like it's better to sort of just find keywords to sort of like implement your website that's sort of obviously the top numbers, like dispensary near me, all that stuff, that's the most popular stuff. But we sort of also go in to this subcategory and look at like the lower lower search keywords or like
Right.
the less relevant keywords.
Right.
And perhaps we could capitalize that by going in there early enough and be the top dogs of those keywords. So I find that's pretty important. And secondly, like even myself, sometimes I would search a certain product on Google, and then there will be, dispensary pops up, and that is a very good thing because, customer can just directly go into your store, click into your store and buy that product. And
Right.
without the SEO, I don't think that's possible, or at least it would be very difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why SEO is very important, because it's sort of just, make that connection a little bit stronger in between the keywords and your store. Because at the end of the day, like there's so many stores out there, like nobody's going to specifically search your store out of nowhere.
Right,
So
right.
yeah,
They're going to look for whatever's most convenient to them. Right.
exactly. Yeah.
On the review side, so I'm a big pusher of trying to generate as many reviews as possible as well, because like, let's face it, like whenever you make any decisions to buy anything, both on the service side and on the product side, right? You go to Amazon, you look at the reviews, you buy the one with the best reviews that resonates best with you. Offline, you go to a physiotherapist, a restaurant, and like anything, you look at the reviews and then, you kind of go by there, right?
Yeah.
So how are you, generating reviews for your business?
So we sort of have this, like, I have a pretty strong memory of like remembering faces. So if I see a customer comes in frequent enough, like maybe 3 or 4 times in a row, I try to have a little chit chat with them. I try to be like, ask them a little bit like, hey, how did you like the product last time? Right. Yeah. If they were like, wow, like that was some really good weed, or like there was some really good pre-rolls, then, that's, I sort of try to make a segue to be like, hey, we're very thankful that you support us and that we're happy to see that you're happy. Would you mind to just spare like 30 seconds to a minute to sort of give us a review? It would greatly help us. You sort of just have to be more shameless about it and don't assume that the customer will say no, because right. Some customers, they're just a little bit more passive. You sort of have to be the role to open up the conversations. So I would say that just, shameless is the first key. Secondly, you have to sort of be on top of, knowing which one is sort of a new customer and stuff, or sometimes even the first time customer, if they have a very positive experience with us, like, right. They're all like at the end, they're like all like smiling and we're all like joking around and stuff. Right. Then, we'll be like, hey, here's a QR code that you can scan to go on our Google Maps. And if you could give us a positive feedback, it would greatly help us. Yeah, that's sort of how I go on it for now. But yeah.
I know, look, that makes tons of sense. Like I again, not to overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. I do think like just asking is a huge portion of how you can generate a lot of reviews. Cause like I also used to do some, work with like restaurants and stuff. Right. Yeah. And one simple unlock was just like, hey, at the end of the meal, if you think that the patron had a good meal, all you do is just ask, like be friendly and be like, hey, because the default of someone isn't to write reviews for your business, right? Yeah. But if you can go in and you have a conversation and be like, hey, really appreciate your support. I thank you for coming in multiple times. I see multiple times every single week. I see more than some of my friends. It'd be really awesome for you to write a review for us because it'll help us out, as a business, and really appreciate it. Something as simple as that. And you add that to just kind of the general conversation, you're organically just going to get more and more reviews, right?
Yeah, I find that like it's best to there's definitely, it's a retail at the end of the day. There's definitely going to be some people who just come in and not really trying to buy anything and sort of bring you down. Right. Staying positive is super, super important. So, you just have to be mentally very positive. You have to be happy yourself to make everyone happy. And it's very like vague what I'm saying, but I would say that I'm sure everybody gets what I'm saying is that like the vibe is very important. If someone comes in and see a dull face and be like, hey, how may I help you? Do you really want that person help? No, you want to leave. But if they come in and you'd be like, hey, how's it going?
Yes.
Oh, awesome t-shirt, like, just try to break the ice. Like don't be too scared to break the ice because it's your job to make the customers comfortable in your store.
Right.
Yeah.
No, completely 100% agree on that for sure. So what about on the social media side of things? Like,
yeah,
sure, as you know, there's a bunch of issues compliance wise and algorithm wise getting shut down and banned and stuff like that. Are you using social media? Like, is that a big part of your marketing strategy? Are you using it in passing? Like, what's your strategy with social media right now?
Facebook, obviously it's not really going to show up. Twitter is not, usually we just use Instagram for the most part. So we sort of put ourselves in the location when we put a post, like we add location to it just so that local residents can see us. Firstly, I think that's a pretty key thing. Secondly, like sometimes you could tag, like let's just say if you were sort of uploading a picture of a product and trying to promote a product, you could keep a good relation with these LPs and sort of just tag
I think Daniel has joined. Hold on, give me a second.
Okay,
we'll add him in, a celebrity guest midway in the chat.
For sure.
We'll revisit the social media.
Yeah.
I'll see when he's done. Just give me a second.
Hello.
Hey Daniel, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Happy you're able to join the chat.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So yeah, I mean, just to kind of pick up where we left off, sort of thing. Reeves was just talking about we were talking on the marketing portion of things, and we're just talking about how you guys leverage social media the best, and that's essentially what we're jumping into right now.
Okay, sweet.
So yeah, sorry. Go for it on the Instagram. I think the tagging of the locations and the hashtags.
Hashtags, but I find hashtags sort of irrelevant sometimes nowadays. They could still work sometimes. I find that one of the better ways is really keep a good relation with these LPs, and then whenever you want to upload a product, you could sort of message them and be like, hey, we're a big supporter of your product. It would be really awesome if we can get a shout out on your Instagram account because they have a larger followings than you. Right. So, that's sort of helps, I would say. So it's really just, you also want to try to get featured in other accounts as well. And I think the most relevant thing to do is to get featured on their account. Like that if they repost us on their story or anything like that, that would, confer some followers here and there.
Nice. Look, you're sharing a bunch of really good nuggets here. I really appreciate it. So now I guess you mentioned you're using Alpine IQ for some of your loyalty stuff. So how does that mix look between, I guess, SMS and email? Like, what are you finding the most effective in terms of, I guess, generating the most amount of sales and stuff like that? And how are you, kind of generating and building up that database of phone numbers and emails?
Frankly, like our Alpine IQ is not, we still have another meeting with them, like in order for us to unlock everything. But in terms of like, they have really awesome statistics, I would say. They have very, very sophisticated statistics. It goes as far as, predictive programming, that kind of stuff. Like as far as, if a customer comes back frequent enough, like Alpine IQ algorithm would sort of predict if the customer is going to come back in a certain time. And if they don't, there's the campaigns, emails, campaigns, stuff like that we can do. And we can also look at the records of what they have bought before. Like that's an example. If a customer came in and bought wedding pie flour by back 40 or something like that, like repeatedly,
Right. Right.
then perhaps it's a good idea to send out an email or sort of send out a text campaign that's from this company, perhaps like a new product or something like that. I find that's really helpful, but I can't really say much yet because I haven't really it's not really that deep in yet with our Alpine IQ. So, but that's all I can say for now for Alpine.
Okay. So you're currently not doing any SMS or email, or are you using any email marketing with the?
Not yet, because they sort of want us to do like a final call with them today, like later today, before we proceed. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, that's would love to kind of hear updates on that for sure, because the loyalty piece is really interesting to me. Like, because you get customers through the door, how do you keep them coming back over again and make sure you don't lose them to kind of customers that are down the street or whatever it is?
Exactly.
Right? So touched on SEO, Alpine IQ, almost social media, generating reviews. Was there anything else that you guys kind of do? Billboards, magazine ads, lawn signs, anything like that?
Anything we do, Daniel?
Yeah, of course. So we put up stickers, posters, that kind of thing. I know me and Reeves went around different areas we thought might be good for 420 sales. So we printed out a bunch of different kind of flyers and that kind of thing and put those up, as well as more permanent general stickers.
Right. How are you finding that working? Like, were you able to, like, I guess, detect a significant increase in terms of like the customers that you brought in after you ran the campaign?
So there's a specific link on the QR code. So we can see via that how many people opened it, and there was a decent uptick after we put those up.
Right. And do you know if that translated then into sales, or do you think this was more like an awareness play?
It did convert some into sales. I'd say not the best percentage, but the on page time was longer than our normal one, though.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense because, it's curiosity, right? I'm sure people are like, QR code, check it out.
Yeah.
Because I would be interested in seeing what the long-term effects of doing a campaign like that is. Because what I've typically found is that for your offline branding campaigns, like I said, the billboards and magazines, the flyers, the posters, all these different things, it's not necessarily like a one-time push that puts it out. It's more so that, I've seen this flyer, the past 10 times I've walked through this neighborhood. Okay, what gives? I'm going to check them out. And then they're like, this is really, really cool. So I don't know if you have any longer term plans to run those campaigns consistently. But if, I guess my next question is, do you have any plans to run those things consistently, or more so like on an event or like a special holiday sale basis or something like that?
Daniel, you want to go ahead?
I think we were talking about more constant sales recently, a bit more.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can kind of answer that. So we used to do this thing where we thought it was a good idea, like Flower Monday, Flower 10% off Monday, or Euro Tuesday, and this kind of stuff. But then this is just sort of my opinion. I find that weed is not really, you can't really use same methods as like restaurants sometimes, just because, or even shopping, because you're not going to be like, hey, I want to smoke Kush, but let's wait till Sunday to go buy Kush. Like if you want to smoke, you would go buy right away. So recently, this has not been implemented yet, but recently we're talking more about like sort of like constant sales, sort of more variety of selection here and there. And then also, on slow days, perhaps throw in some like happy hours or some stuff to sort of pick up some traffic in this slow times. Like maybe during Monday, 2 to 5 p.m. if I find that's sort of the slowest time. Like, hey, if you walk in a door from this amount of time to like in this certain time frame, like you can get like, certain, off or maybe, extra value, stuff like that. So that's sort of one thing we do. but other things we're sort of still planning out in a sense. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, I was just, again, the fundamental stuff that everyone does, social media reviews, Google, SEO, that stuff. But I find it super interesting to hear kind of like what are maybe the smaller kind of nuanced things that different dispensaries do, right? Because everyone knows you got to go get loyalty, you have to do this, SMS, email, like those are the things you have to do. But in terms of just like interesting things on the side, I think it's pretty cool to see, or to just kind of get insight on what different dispensaries are doing, which I found really interesting. Sure. So I guess just to kind of taper off, to ask the last couple questions, is that like, so what would you say to a dispensary owner that's like looking to take it to the next level, whether that's someone that's looking to start a dispensary or one maybe that has one, and you think that they should implement this to kind of like do it, take it to the next level?
This might sound cliche, but I do still have a strong belief that in order for you to take to the next level, you should know every single product in your store.
Right. Okay.
Like, doesn't matter if it's 200 kills, 400 kills. If you don't know about it, maybe have a few friends to sort of spread the work with you. Right. By work, I mean smoking, right. But yeah. But try to know. And the second thing is that a lot of times I find that we are so focused on vision, but we're humans. We don't just have vision. We have eyes, we have nose, and we have ears. So I find that having good music on is super important. Try not to play something that's too fast. Try to play something slow, chill, to make people slow, because the longer a customer stays, the more likely it's going to be a conversion. And secondly, I find that scent is also super important. Something that I find perhaps a lot of people miss out on is that you might want some aroma in your store, like those Reeves diffuser, whatever the case may be, because when the store smells good, like people naturally want to stay longer. Yeah. And that kind of stuff.
You get complimented a lot for that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's like you're the second person that told me that like music plays a big role. Because I had a chat with the manager of another dispensary, and she was like, like between this time and this time, they have an older demographic coming in, so she changes the music a little bit. But like later on in the day, it's like it doesn't really matter; it's up for grabs. But you're not the first person that told me about like the diffuser in the store, which you want to increase conversions, you want to increase the number of purchases you have versus people coming in the store, which I think again is super important. Daniel, do you have anything that you might want to share in terms of golden nuggets?
True. Well, we do also have those display for the buds, so you can actually look at and smell them. I think that's pretty good. If you ever have a product that's not moving well, if you throw it in a display and it has a good look, people might have been hesitant before for whatever reason, maybe the name or some other factor.
Right.
But if something looks really crazy, they're a lot more likely to pay whatever for it. Yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, Reeves is talking about that same thing. He said sometimes for the products that are not available, right? You got like a picture of it or something that say, hey, I know this is in a jar or in whatever packaging it is. But just so you have a better idea of what this looks like, you can take a look and, get a better idea of that stuff. So that's really cool. And last question is, where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
You mean through like in person or?
I guess if you want to answer questions, you can have your email, but if you want to just show everyone just about the Bakery Cannabis, you can talk about social media, address, where you're located.
Yeah. So we pretty much respond. Doesn't matter how people reach out to us. We try our best to respond ASAP. So people can reach us out by searching the Bakery Cannabis on Google Maps and message us there, or if they are Instagram user, they could reach us out on Instagram. Or if they're a little bit like old school or formal, they want to use email, they can reach us on the bakerycannabis@gmail.com. We anyway, like any sort of way you want to reach out at. But if even more old school, if people want to sort of just call and ask what we have in the store available, our phone number would be 647-349-9333, I believe. Yeah. So those are we try to provide as many methods for people to reach out as possible because there are different people out there. So yeah.
Look, I'm on that. I completely agree. But look, just want to say thank you for the awesome chat. This is really, really awesome. I wrote down a lot of like kind of golden nuggets and some notes that you have that I'm definitely going to, take back to the lab. But, again, really appreciate you guys taking your time. Daniel, I know you're able to hop on a little bit at the tail end of the call, but again, really appreciate you guys being able to hop on. And yeah, so that's about it. And yeah, take care, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.